everyone, and how are you? Thank you so much for joining us today. In this session, we have an incredible guest who will introduce herself shortly, and then she will discuss for us nice information concerning emerging trends in our lives, both as medics and also as public citizens. And if you're new in this channel, my name is Winnie Barawa. In this channel, we host lectures, lessons, and also sessions pertaining healthcare. If that is your area of interest, kindly you can go subscribe and also click on the notification button so that when you post our next videos, you'll be the first one to be notified. And if you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for building this channel. And well, without wasting much time, let me welcome my guest. She will tell her name, where she's coming from, and what we are doing today. Well, I was very excited shooting this video because it was done in the countryside of Kenya. As you can see the hills and how clear the clouds are. So as you can see in the background, it is quite peaceful and awesome. And so guys, I hope you really enjoyed this video, my first ever countryside video with my guest. Welcome. So yes, welcome, and maybe you can introduce yourself, who you are, where you're coming from, what you do, it's just a conversation.
Okay, thank you, Winnie. My name is Winnie Moimet, just like you. I'm a nutritionist. I'm very passionate about health. I'm also very passionate about children and healthy living and well-being.
All right. Yes. So how did you find yourself into nutrition?
I love to cook. I love to eat.
Okay.
And when I was trying to pursue a career, I was advised by one of my lecturers that there was a new course called nutrition. So I looked through the requirements. I was able to see that I fit into the criteria. I applied. I joined university for 4 years where I pursued nutrition.
Okay. I remember when nutrition was starting in Kenya, that time it was discussed as nutrition and dietetics. So maybe you can tell other people who may be interested. So far, what levels can someone train nutrition?
Okay, so we have 4 different domains of nutrition. We have community nutrition. So these are people who work in the community. I'm sure you've heard sometimes we have drought in some areas, and we have people who there's a hunger crisis in the country. So we have the community nutritionists who are able to respond to such situations and are able to provide proper nutrition in such situations. Then we have the clinical nutritionists. These are nutritionists who work in the hospital, where they're able to provide therapeutic assistance to patients who are in hospital. So in a hospital setting, you find a person, they're not able to eat food. So it's a nutritionist to see how best they're able to administer food to a patient like that. So there's the food scientists. So these are people who work in factories. So if you check in your food labels, you realize that there are some foods that every different nutrient has some kilocalories that it provides. So those are the food industry nutritionists who are able now to look at each food, what does it contain.
So you've talked about the domains, but now I'm looking at this person who is interested in nutrition, but maybe they didn't get enough marks. In Kenya it's all about which grade did you get. So what is the lowest level that someone can train, and what is the highest level of training that someone can train?
So we have nutrition at certificate level. So after Form 4, you, depending on the grades that you get, you go and check in your nearest institutions the cut-off points that they have. So you can join certificate, then you go to diploma, and then you join university. We also have nutrition at master's level and also PhD.
Oh, nice.
So it's a career that you can really progress to greater heights.
Okay.
Yeah.
And like you said, like the domains are very wide.
Yes, the domains are very wide. You can work in so many places. You can work even in hotels. These days, hotels are employing nutritionists to just take care of the clients that come in. Yes.
So what challenges should maybe the people who are interested in nutrition should they prepare for, like for the market specifically?
The challenges with these days, of course, in Kenya we have a lot of unemployment. However, I'm seeing a lot of growth in the entrepreneurship space, whereby you can actually start your own clinic, or you can even decide to purchase supplements and sell supplements. So there's a lot. There is a lot also of health and well-being, weight management. Yeah. So I feel like it's about time that we check into the entrepreneurship space.
You've mentioned weight, and I've remembered something. Most people, when they hear nutrition as a cause, they think of food. Now, when do we blend these two? Because the way you've explained it, it means it's quite broad.
Yeah.
How do we blend and remove this mindset that when I become a nutritionist, my work will be anything food? First of all, is it true that it's anything food? Or it's something else?
So on its own, nutrition is a science of how food is taken in and also utilized by the body. So yes, first of all, when we think of nutrition, we have to look at the food aspect. So what we do with nutrition is that we use food to ensure that it is best utilized in the human body. Yes.
So what will be the roles of a nutritionist, for example, who is working in a hospital, and they maybe don't get let's say confused by someone who is related with the kitchen, for example? Takes us through in the ward, what roles will I expect most from a nutritionist?
So the roles of a nutritionist in the hospital is to ensure that the patient gets the optimal nutrition. So for instance, a typical day for a nutritionist, you wake up in the morning, you'd probably do a ward round and check which patients do you have in the hospital. Then for instance, if you get a patient with diabetes, you check the file, see if the patient if they've taken the RBS.
Yes.
Once you've seen the RBS, depending on whether it's high or low, then from there you decide to do the nutrition therapy. So if the sugars are high, of course we go through the normal care process, but for us we call it the nutrition care process, which also has 4 domains: the assessment, the diagnosis, intervention, monitoring and evaluation. So you'd assess the patient, check for the anthropometric measurements, the biochemicals, the clinical presentation of the patient, and also the economic status. So based on that information, then you're able to do diagnosis. And for us, we have nutrition diagnosis. We don't depend entirely on the medical diagnosis, but definitely it's the principal diagnosis that we usually look at. Once we derive the nutrition diagnosis, then we intervene. So for instance, if the patient's sugars are really high, let's say the patient's sugars are about 13, then based on the 24-hour recall of the diet and also the history of the way the patient has been eating, then we can do focused nutrition education and counseling, whereby we look at what the patient has been taking and advise on portions. These days we don't tell patients to stop eating some certain types of food. We advise on portions. So we talk about, if it's ugali, we calculate how much the patient would need, and we administer the diet depending on the findings after calculation.
So let's take an example, not really an example, but let's go back to the public domain. For hospitals, healthcare workers, I think most of us can relate to what we are discussing. But there's the public, or the person who may not understand the portions, what is required. For example, I have a particular condition, and you've seen a lot of people confuse like small bodies as healthy, and they think big bodies are not healthy. So when as a nutritionist, when you look at a client, let's say physically, what things will tell you the client is healthy or the client is unhealthy, you know, based on the body size? Or does the body really matter at the beginning?
Just by the first look at a person, we're not advised to make conclusive remarks based on just how someone looks, because there are so many things that we take into account. For instance, we can take the BMI of the patient, whereby we look at the height and the weight and we compare, and using those readings, then we're able to determine if the patient is overweight or underweight. We don't only use BMI, we can go a step ahead and look at the biochemicals. We look at the triglyceride levels and all that. Something else that we do is the waist-hip ratio.
Okay.
Yes, so we look at the fat that is distributed.
So my weight and my height, okay. So my okay, this is new. So literally my waist has a thing to do with my health.
Hips, yes.
Hips,
yes.
Okay, all right, come on.
Yes. So you take a tape measure literally, and you measure your waist.
Okay.
And you measure your hips. And then now for women,
what are your recommended hips?
Yes, I'm just about to tell you that one. There's a recommended hips and waist.
Okay.
So anything below 0.8, once you've gotten the measure, waist over hips, okay?
Give us in inches. How many inches?
No, you see, whether in inches or whatever, the ratio.
Okay.
Yeah. After you've done the calculation in centimeters, sorry.
Okay.
Yes. So for females, it's 0.8. And below. For male is 1, because males, they accumulate a lot of fat on the waistline. Yes. So we use such parameters now to be able to determine the nutrition status of a person. So just by merely looking at someone, I cannot be able to say that this person, the nutrition status is not good. Yeah.
Now, what's your take on the people who want to lose weight very fast? You've seen of people who want to go to the place. I don't know where they get them. They go to these places, they get some concoctions and they drink, and all of a sudden everything has gone into their required places, and the hips are hipping, and the waist is wasting, and you wonder, how do that work? What mechanism actually is in place that enables such things to happen? I've never understood.
Okay. These days we have so many people out there who are into the nutrition space, but they're not actually nutritionists.
Okay.
Yes. So they use some methods that could eventually become harmful to their health. So anytime someone wants to lose weight, I advise them not to just Google how to lose weight, but I request that they seek medical advice, especially from a nutritionist. Let them go, they get the proper assessment, and they go through the proper weight loss process, because you can't just lose weight over 2 weeks. Yeah, it's not normal, because that's not how the body's metabolism and the physiology works. So you need to take time to lose your weight. It needs to be a very slow process, because just the way you gained weight, no one gains weight overnight.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. So the same way, you need to lose that weight in a progressive manner if you're going to lose it, and you remain at that particular weight for some time. Yeah. So this I've seen a lot. There are people who actually take a lot of salt so that they are able to diarrhea, and those things are actually harmful to your health.
And now that we're talking about weight, so what's the relationship between weight loss through exercise and nutrition? Because you've seen people will discuss with us and tell us, if you want to lose weight, some tell you the best way is to watch your portions, weigh. Others have even kitchen weights, and they weigh their food in the kitchen before they cook it. And then there's another one who will be blending. They're going to the gym, 5 days a week. They drink a lot of water, and then at the back they eat fruits and so on. How related are these two from a nutritionist angle? Okay. Or so, how safe also is it?
So one thing we need to also appreciate is it's a holistic thing.
Okay.
Exercise, we use the energy in our body, or rather the nutrients are broken down to produce energy.
Yeah.
So when you do exercise, you're basically burning the energy, or rather the nutrients that are in the body. Okay. Now there's a famous saying in Kiswahili, mwili haijengwi na mawe. Inajengwa na
chakula.
Exactly. So The same way food builds the body, meaning we can control how big our body is using food. So cutting down on the portions that we're taking under advice, and also looking for ways in which we can dispend, or rather break down, using exercise now to be able to produce the energy. That's the other way. So nutrition and exercise must go together.
Okay.
Yes, you cannot just rely on exercise or food alone. Yes, we need the both
to blend them together.
Yes.
So let's look at the other category of nutrition for children. We understand that nowadays we have the Gen Z mothers, and we looking at the Gen Zs, the approach to motherhood and taking care of children is a bit different. And motherhood, sorry for those who are watching, we are not referring just to mothers. We want to use that interchangeably with the word parenting. And you realize that the practice of parenting currently in terms of children, it's like there's a gap. And the new trend of malnutrition, sorry to say, is no longer kwashiorkor and marasmus. The new famous malnutrition right now, it's rickets. The kids are being born with bow-leggedness, body structure is not proper, or kids are delaying to walk. And I was reading somewhere, and they're saying some of these things are coming in because children are either not playing properly, or they're not being exposed well to the environment. So looking at this also, because bones growing, I mean, that is about nutrition, and the children even kicking milestones, there's a lot of nutritional input into it. What is your best approach to this, or what advice can you tell mothers, maybe who are new, or parents who are coming in and looking into this childcare and all that?
All right. So first of all, as you said, bones are made of nutrients.
Yeah.
The whole body is actually made of nutrients. Okay. So for a child to be able to grow optimally, the mother must start proper nutrition pre-conception. So pre-conception is before pregnancy.
Okay.
So they can start ensuring that they are able to take most of the nutrients. How we ensure that is by doing something we called previously we talk about balanced diet, but now we talk about food diversity.
Okay.
So by food diversity we mean kama if you had dinner yesterday, ugali, nyama and boga, the next day you're not supposed to repeat the same, you change, so that you're able to have nutrients from all foods, because not all foods have all nutrients. For instance, one protein can lack some amino acids. Proteins are made of amino acids.
Yes.
So you find some proteins don't have all the amino acids. So if you take just one protein every single day, it means there's some amino acids that you're missing out. So for this lady who's planning to get pregnant, first of all, they need to start their improving their nutrition before. And then also during pregnancy.
How long is this before?
Because nutrients are stored in different manner. So let's say 6 months before, you can start.
Have you had? If you're getting married, if you're planning on having a pregnancy, 6 months starts now.
Start eating well. Yeah, so they can start eating very well. During the pregnancy, of course, we have some supplements that are administered, but nevertheless, also you're supposed to ensure that you eat well. Now, specifically for rickets, happens when the mother does not have a combination of calcium and vitamin D. So for calcium, best sources for calcium is milk. That's one of the best sources, and also bone soup. So during the pregnancy, the mother can try as much as possible to ensure that they are able to get calcium from such sources. Then after, also there are some calcium supplements that are also given during pregnancy. So they can also ensure that they take that. After the pregnancy, when the child is born, for the first 6 months, of course, we exclusively breastfeed. By exclusively breastfeeding, we mean that the child only takes breast milk and nothing, no water, nothing. Just
nothing.
No water. Don't even imagine that the child is thirsty, because they get the water part from the breast milk.
Before you leave that breastfeeding thing, do African kids apply here? Because
actually
they say African babies, we get
they're
complaints.
Different.
As a nurse, When they come to the ward, they tell you, hey, nurse, my baby is 4 months. I feel like when she breastfeeds, she doesn't get full. So she tells me, sometimes I add some soup. What's your advice on African babies? I think we need to take care of this group more.
Now, for breastfeeding, it's just exclusively the World Health Organization. That's the recommendation. And if you look at children who've been breastfed 6 months exclusively, and those who have not, in fact, we have better IQ.
Okay.
You take your child to school, you wonder why they are not performing very well. Go back to breastfeeding.
I should go back to my mom.
Yes. Yeah. So breastfeeding is very important. So we don't advise any other, not water, nothing. Even though the baby looks at the spoon, I hear most mothers say, naangalia chakula sana. Yeah, I mean, they look at the food so much when I'm putting it in my mouth. But no, we don't encourage any sort of addition.
But thinking of parenting and women, you know, women also have to go to work after 3 months. And after 3 months or 90 days are done, people go to work. How do we help the parent who wants to continue breastfeeding and then going to work at the same time?
Okay, so there is a way we can store the breast milk. So what happens is that the mother expresses the breast milk, stores them in bottles, and you can keep them in the fridge or even just keep them room temperature. You can stay up to 24 hours. And the good thing is that the mother will be able to produce as much breast milk. The more you
Express.
the more you express, the more you produce.
Okay.
Yeah, the production is there.
So the more you express, the more you stimulate the area to bring out more milk.
Yes, and if you know, it goes with the demand of the baby. So the body will remove as much as the baby would want. So
demanding.
In short, the more you breastfeed, the more milk you have. Yes. Okay. So today you'll realize an increase in the amount of breast milk the more you try and express even more, or try and express or rather breastfeed more. Then you'll have more breast milk.
Wow. So we've breasted the child, we've successfully done that. Child is 6 months. We are now going into the meals.
So once the child is 6 months, it depends. For the first 6 months, we do something called complementary feeding.
Yeah.
So by complementary feeding, it means we are complementing the breast milk.
Okay.
We're not doing away with the breast milk. So you'd find a child who's about 6 months will be fed twice a day on food, and mostly we try as much as possible to introduce one food at a time.
Okay.
Yes. So and you top up now with the breast milk. They will eat like 2 spoons, and then you breastfeed. Just for the first 1 week, you see how the child behaves. Then for 7 months, now we have different amounts of food that we are supposed to be giving. Now, so it changes as the child grows and becomes older. Also, the demand for the nutrients increases.
Okay.
Yes. So if at 6 months the child only needed an additional 300 kilocalories, then at 9 months it's not the same. So we need to increase. The demand of the child also increases.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how should we measure the portion? Let me ask first thing, how should we prepare the portions, and then how should we measure? Because you realize there are children who are being blended. Like the child is being on blended food, and we're not talking about smashed. Blending is blender and everything is all porridge like, and for the next 2 years the child is on that particular menu. How do we break this blending culture? Because I've seen some cases where a child has been on blends until they don't know how to chew. Because remember, chewing is also part of digestion. So they have forgotten how to chew, or they struggle to learn how to chew, and when you increase the amount in the mouth, some of them even choke. So how do we break when do we supposed to what level are we supposed to blend, and at which level do we stop blends and start now smashing until we are free from the whole thing?
Okay. So at 6 months, the first 6 months, we blend. We make it as smooth as possible. Yeah. Something almost close to the consistency of not really of breast milk, but when, for example, if you're making porridge, when you scoop the porridge, when you pour it like that, it's not supposed to pour like water.
Okay.
It's supposed to move very slowly. Yes, so that is the consistency that is required, and it's very important. I've heard you mention choking, because you know, once the baby swallows the food, when it's thicker like that, it helps with expanding the esophagus.
Okay.
Yeah, so you've said at 2 years you find some children, they're not
Still
able
blending,
to swallow.
yeah.
Because the esophagus is so tight. So we need to introduce the thickness of the food as much as possible, so that the child is able now to learn how to chew and then swallow those thick
Bolars,
food.
huh?
Yes, exactly. So after we've already pureed, then we move to mashing. So mashing, it should at least have some balls. So that is about at 7 months going to 8. Okay, now at around 8 months, now the child is able to hold. Even if you look at a child who's about 8 months, they can at least sit without support.
Yeah.
And then their flexes also, their motor skills, they are very good, so they can actually hold some foods and put them in their mouth. So at that point, we don't need to do a lot of mashing. We can actually do things called finger foods. Yeah, so whereby the child is able to hold them and bite. Yes, and put them in the mouth. So we just cut into very nice small pieces, and we actually encourage the children to eat by themselves. By 9 months, they are good to go.
So let's look at that 9 months going to 1 year. This is where the walk and everything is starting, and that's where the problem starts, because the parent tells you, my child is not walking, other children are running, mine is still struggling. Is there any meals maybe that are advisable at that particular age group?
So for these children, we are still talking about food diversity.
Yeah.
We're not talking about balanced diet. So you should ensure that the child is able to get foods from all food groups. Some of the highly required foods, calcium is very important because of the very fast growth. Okay, children, they grow very fast. If you compare a child who's 0 to 6, 6 to 1, those are two different people.
Yes.
So we call this a stage of rapid growth.
Okay.
So we need to really ensure that the child is getting the right amount of nutrients. So how we ensure this is by giving frequent meals. So for instance, if for us, we eat about maybe 3 times a day. So for a baby, they should be able to eat at least 3 hourly, after every 3 hours.
Okay, so that's like 8 times in 24 hours.
24 hours, but you know, they must sleep.
So it's 6 times 12 hours. Okay.
So in the morning, they'll wake up at 8, give them 3 hours. At 11, give something. After 11, just ensure after every 3 hours the child has eaten something, because there's a lot of demand for growth. Yes. And then now, specifically now for the rickets, they need to take foods that are rich in calcium. One of them is milk.
Okay.
Yes, so ensure we give milk.
When do we start putting the children in the normal diet now, where they can eat at least twice a day? 6 times a day is a lot. With this economy, it's difficult.
Actually, the recommended times of eating, you're supposed to be having 3 meals with 2 snacks. You, a normal person. So if you're eating only 3 meals, you're underfeeding.
Okay.
You need to be taking 3 small meals and then snacks. So even this child, there's no point at which you'll say that 3 meals is a lot.
Okay.
It's supposed to be that is the best practice for children.
Okay.
At least up to about 5 years, that's good practice. Because even when they go to school, you'll realize from home they've taken breakfast at 8. When they get to school at around 10, they take something, and then lunchtime they'll take something. At 4, they come home, they eat, and then at night they take something. So it's the recommended feeding pattern.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I realize the conversation can go on and on, because there are so many things coming up.
Yes.
But I want to invite you for another talk, so that we can broaden the discussion, especially around adults and the elderly, because it's a population that I think has been neglected when it comes to nutrition. So I want us to give us a wrap up. Generally, like, what will you advise a person maybe who is struggling with nutrition issues, especially nowadays? We hear a lot of people talking about what do you guys call them? I think diet plan or something, where someone can write to their house and they have Monday is rice and chapati and so on. What will you say about that, so as we close, or what will you advise the public?
what I advise is it's very important that you plan your meals. That's I think it's a very good practice because it also helps you with budgeting. It helps you with time because you don't have to keep thinking, what am I going to eat? And when you plan your diets, you also plan the nutrients that you're taking. So meaning the foods that I'm eating from Monday to Monday, they are totally they're balanced, they are well distributed, the nutrients are well distributed. So it's very important. Number two, if possible, see a nutritionist to guide you. They will take you from the point where you are to the point where you want to be, not only as an individual but even as a family. So a nutritionist can make you a very good diet plan. And I've not seen many people here embracing it, but I know if you do that, nutrition is a very slow process. You may not see it happening immediately, but after some time you'll even realize a difference in your metabolism, even how much you get tired in a day. So many things change. So nutrition really works, nutrition is real, and I hope that we begin to embrace it and appreciate it much better.
So thank you so much, Winnie, for joining me to this particular interview. I've learned a lot myself. I've understood nutrition widely. We've discussed so many things. I hope you've been following this conversation, and I hope to bring Winnie again here. She gives us more details. Actually, that part of meal planning, because I feel so many people are struggling. People are just making meal plans that have no order at all. You're eating the same things every day, and like we've been told, we need to practice food diversity so that we don't eat proteins that don't have all the amino acid that might take home. And like they've said, please don't eat food that doesn't have all the carbohydrates, and don't repeat your meal plans. So if you're new here, please remember to subscribe, and if you've enjoyed this conversation, you can comment down there and tell us which area you wish us to emphasize more on, which questions you wish to be answered. Until we meet again, bye-bye.
Bye.